Morning Sonata, Part 2. The trip to Whitetail was a short one. The bus going to Cottydale in the northwest passed through a cozy little town. It was lit to sunset simmer like an old farming village from the 17th century. As the group all stepped off at the dusty road, the bus winding its way behind them, Sunset had to admit that it was a really difficult time imagining a Dazio dazzle in a place like this. It was just so low-key, so humble. Hey, there's my great uncle, Apple Strudel, Applejack pointed out cheerily, indicating an elderly man in Bavarian clothes manning a roadside stand. Rarity was looking around with a critical eye that he all knew too well. It could have been clear that he was getting ideas from the homely-looking country attire of the townspeople. Sunset fervently hoped they didn't come in within half a mile of the sewing machine, or it might have been a rather extended visit. Pinky, did you say you saw Dazio? Sunset inquired. Pinky, who had been balancing on a wooden stance on the ground, looked with both stretched arms and one leg sounded like a ballerina. Who? Adazio, Sunset said. She waved, but Pinky seemed unenlightened. The one with the poofy orange hair? She added, exasperated. Oh, Pinky said, comprehendingly. Leaning over Flare-Side's head, landing in between Sunset and Sonata, she wrapped her arms around their necks and pointed to a small complex of wooden bags. Over here! It had been at least 5 weeks since Sonata had seen Adazio, perhaps longer, and Sunset could tell by the slightly forced felicity in her friend's mannerisms that she was getting rather anxious. The place that Pinky showed them was a low, long-constructed building with a large wooden sign over the main door, Mrs. Neal's Fabric Emporium. There's another relative of mine, Applejack said, sticking her head and smiling. Who aren't you related to, A.J.? Rainbow asked. Oh, ha, ha, ha. Applejack stopped, folding her arms. Legit question. I've been in some towns where I'm pretty positive I've seen everybody who related to somebody. The interior smelled like fresh pressed linen, and the shop was warm despite the cold outside. A single long aisle ran between 2 rows of shelves stuffed full of rolls of fabric, knitting tools, and even in one corner, a fully functional, old-fashioned spinning wheel. A young man sat at the till smiled over the group. Howdy there, he said in a full country accent, pushing the half-moon spectacles over Stephen's nose. If I can help you any, don't be afraid to ask. He flashed his name tag, but said, Hello, my name is Tenderhoof. Rarity stared at the man for a moment or two, then let out a scream of shock as she sent her friend scurrying for cover. The young man smiled fast as Rarity pushed herself across the carriage to stare at him. She read the tag several times over. Tenderhoof? The Tenderhoof? The man straightened his blonde hair and his face very pink. Idiots, he said awkwardly. How's Rarity assaulted the cash lawyer? Applejack asked despitefully. Sunset frowned thoughtfully. Tenderhoof, why does that sound familiar? He's the famous critical writer, said I, explaining. Although he's gone to county scouting recently, too. Everyone stared at her as he vaguely smiled at them. How in the world do you know that? Sunset asked breathlessly. It was in a magazine on your coffee table, Sonata said, sounding amused. She put her head to one side, smiling instantly. You go read, Rainbow Dash thought out loud. Applejack elbowed her. As Rainbow and Applejack glared at each other, and the others watched Rarity ogle like Tenderhoof, Sunset heard a voice coming from the back of the station. Could you bring Velvet 072, please, Bandit? Coming, Mrs. Neal. Someone emerged from the back room, the top of their head visible. The head was utterly unfamiliar, but Sunset was sure she recognized that voice. Wondering where the head was going, she jogged down the main aisle and peered around the corner. At first, she couldn't be certain there was a person they were looking for. Her hair was long, straight, and held back in a loose ponytail. Her formerly thin string was bulkier than before. Her skin tanned. Her clothes were worn but spotlessly clean. All in all, she looked like a self-respecting farmhand. Kind of like Applejack, as Sunset were honest with herself. Well, there's one way to find out. Ask her to sway her hips. Damn those hips. As this person deposited a hefty roll of red velvet into a shelf, she seemed to notice Sunset's head and looked around, to her nose misstating those eyes. Adazio? Sunset whispered, disbelievingly. The girl's eyes widened silently, and she was momentarily slightly shot, but her expression lasted a stunning unconcern. "Hello," she said. There was no mistaking. "It is you," Sunset said, walking up to her. "Dear Celestia, what? I mean, you look different." She flushed a little, but Adagio didn't look offended, or respond at all, really. "So, how you doing?" "Good," Adagio said tonelessly. Sunset felt like she was talking to Maud. "So, you work here?" "Yeah." "You like it?" "It's okay." "Do you live around here, too?" "Yes." Sunset was out of questions. Adagio stroked herself as he spoke, her expression unchanging. It was hard to tell exactly where Adagio was being cold or unresponsive. This behavior, like her parents, was just so far removed from the Adagio she known. "Hey, Adagio, are you—" "It's all the same. Could you not call me that, please?" Adagio said quietly. "It's Ballard now." Oh. Sunset mumbled. "Sure, no problem." "Who are you talking to?" Peking asked, popping her head over the shelf between them. So went to Adagio, then to Sunset, then Adagio again, then Sunset again. "You guys know each other?" She asked brightly. Sunset stalled, looking to Adagio for some indication how to respond. "Oh, you're all here," Adagio asked, looking up concerned. Yeah," Sunset said awkwardly. "Actually, there's someone else with you." "Hey, Sonny!" Pinky answered the sea switcher. "Who's your friend?" Adagio sighed quietly. "It's me, Adagio," she mumbled, and so eager not to be heard. Piggy stared at him slightly. She turned her head this way and that as Adagio stared back at her. The faintest of all creased lines appeared his brows. "No way!" Piggy chuckled. "You're... He guys!" "What?" Rainbow asked, trying to coax Rarity away from practically fleeing Tenderhoof. "What are you guys doing over there? We need to tell us a life over here." This girl says he's a dot." Sunset leaped forward and slapped her hand over Pinky's mouth. "Pinky, not so loud," Sunset hissed. Pinky repeated. "Yes." She glared at her meaningfully. Pinky gave the A-OK sign and winked conspiratorially. Sunset exhaled and took her hand from Pinky's mouth. "Hey, guys!" Pinky hissed at her sea switcher again. "This girl says he's Adagio." Sunset wanted to strangle her. It may have seized her neck if her head hadn't popped down from the shelf. It sounded like a herd of antelope thundered to Sunset's left, as she felt herself buffeted out of the way by a crowd of eager teenagers. Gotta love good friends. Adagio looked at all of them one by one as they stared back, all trying to see features they recognized. "No Twilight Sparkle?" Adagio asked, though her tone suggested she was not that much interested. "Adagio?" Sonata pushed her way gently to the front. For the first time, true emotion broke over Adagio's face, and even beyond all the physical differences, it was easy to girl the siren had once been. "Sonata," she breathed. "You're—" She hesitated. To the surprise of all present, she took several quick steps forward and embraced Sonata. Everyone stepped back a little awkwardly. Rainbow and Fireside suddenly developed an interest in a roll of foul yellow cotton, whilst Pinky blushed and slid out of her sight. Sunset was the only one who didn't look away. She found herself despairing in the sway of affection with a faint feeling of disapprobation. Quite why she couldn't explain. This affecting scene may have gone on for some time, but the universe has some aversive tenderness of any kind, and cannot suffer it to continue for experienced of time. That which had the honor of souring that particular moment nauseating public confession was a shrill cry of women from the back room. "Ballad!" Adagio and Sonata jumped apart. "Ballad?" Sonata frowned. "Who's she talking to?" She fell silent at the look Adagio gave her. "Yes, Beetle." She called back. "Are you done with those boxes yet? I need help with these boxes." "Be right there, Mrs. Neal." She looked back at the group. Her different expression and tone was back on. "It's nice seeing you again, Sonata," she said, giving the faintest of smiles. "I need some help back there?" Elzette got for it, apparently on impulse. "I know old Natalie could be a bit well." "Sure," she chuckled nervously. "Really?" Rainbow snorted. "No thanks," said Adagio said gratefully. "Really, I'm fine. It was nice meeting you all again." So saying, she turned away and disappeared back room. Needless to say, Sonata was somewhat distressed by this turn of events. Sunset had lived with her now long enough to know her fellow sirens were the root cause of all her current insecurities. Arya's rage and resentment at having failed bore a side of her that Sonata had never seen. Adacio's shattered confidence had caused her to leave Sonata alone to fend for herself. A few times Sonata espoused a wish to find him, but never as much more as a side thought. Sunset had imagined that given time she would move past him. Now, however, she wasn't so sure. Sunset sat next to Sonata on a bench by the bus stop, Fluttershy on her side trying to cheer her up. She must have been quite busy, Fluttershy said kindly. I did say your great Auntie Neil was a snicker for working hard. I'm sure if we meet her when she's off work, she'd want to talk to you. Sunset rubbed Sonata's back. Look, there she is now. Adacio exited the Emporium bag in hand. Trying to get past she had clearly tried many times before. She made her way to the stand where Applejack's great uncle Applestrudel stood and began a conversation with over the counter. Well, support, Sunset and Fluttershy convinced Sonata to go over and talk. Oh, Adacio said at their approach. You're still in town? That's yours, Applestrudel asked good-naturedly. You could say that, so Adacio said, her eyes staring sideways. Is there anything else you need, sir? Monsieur, Applestrudel said, startling, shoving a finger at her stand top. This will be all right. I'll be having fish for dinner tonight, okay? Sounds great. Adacio waved the man off as he hobbled away on his cane. Did she notice the coast still standing there? Was there something you wanted? She asked eventually. Sunset and Fluttershy glanced at each other nervously. Sonata wanted to talk to you. Oh, what about? Adacio looked politely inquiring. Sunset simply stared. The air change in Adacio's personality was kept taking her by surprise. What are you doing here? Sonata burst out. Adacio looked patently puzzled. What do you mean? Sonata seemed at a loss for words. I think what he means is, how did you get here? Fluttershy added. What you meant, right? I worked here, Adacio replied. Look, Sunset put in, holding up both hands. I thought we'd sit down and talk. Do you have somewhere you need to be? Not particularly, Adacio said. I'm not expected back until 6. They seated themselves in the front of a cafe. Fluttershy timidly brought the drinks from an incognito French waiter. Sunset and Sonata sat on one side, opposite Adacio and Fluttershy. As per usual, Fluttershy looked rather as though she was trying to sink under the table, kept looking itchily at Adacio, who sat twiddling her thumbs and staring into space. After several moments of painful silence, Sunset broke the silence. So, hey, why exactly are you here? She asked, forcing her mouth to form a smile. No particular reason, I suppose, Adacio said, shrugging. Sunset looked at Fluttershy for help, but Fluttershy seemed determined to remain out of the conversation if at all possible. She was rather ostentatiously sipping her drink and avoiding Sunset's eye. Sunset spared her a scowl before turning to Sonata and felt her insides turn cold. Teeth gritted, her eyes overbright. Sonata stood up suddenly, knocking her chair flying. Say something! She screamed. People all turned around to stare, but Adacio kept her eyes fixed on the table. Please, just say something! She slammed both hands onto the table and leaned over, trying to look at Adacio's eyes. Tell me I'm stupid. Order me around. Think it's a play for world domination. Anything! Sunset suddenly felt sympathetic towards Fluttershy, who was given any amount of bits to slip down on her table and hide. As Adacio continued to sit where she was, saying nothing, however, she felt it would be wrong to do so. Fortunately, so did Fluttershy. Is there anything wrong, Ballad? Fluttershy asked Adacio. Is there a reason why you can't? Adacio stood as well, effectively cutting Fluttershy off. I have to go. I have farm work to do. Well, that explains the tan and muscles, Sunset muttered to herself, still knowing how Adacio looked startlingly like Applejack in her mind's eye. She pictured a cowboy hat on her head, but the Sonata rushed out from behind the table. Leaning forward, she grabbed Adacio's wrist and held her back. Please, why won't you talk to me? Adacio was silent for a few moments, her head bowed. Leave, Sonata. You have friends. You don't need me anymore. Is this what it's about? Sonata cried, anger mixing with grief. Are you angry with me because I'm friends with them? No, Adacio snapped, her voice rising. A trace of the old passion entered her face and was quickly overshadowed again. I'm not angry, Sonata. Like I said, you don't need me anymore. With undue force, he pulled her arm from Sonata's slack and Greta walked away, not looking back. Sonata stared at her, breathing shallow, her eyes brimming. Sunset stepped forward and took hold of her arm as she swayed a little. Fluttershy mumbled incoherent words of worry to herself. He called me with dash. See, AJ and Piggy all sprinted over, looking at her. What's up? We heard shouting and she stopped beside Sonata. What do we miss? Nothing, Sonata snapped, yanking her arm away from Sunset, pushing between Rainbow and Pinky. Sunset didn't try to stop her. Somehow he got the feeling Sunset wanted to be alone for a while. Well, Rainbow scowled. What's her problem? Sunset put her hand on Rainbow's shoulder, shaking her head. What happened? Applejack asked, looking serious. Did Ballard revert back to town or something? No, Sunset said ponderously. Something else is going on. Where's Rarity? Applejack tutted literally. With her new boyfriend, that's where. Doe-eyed like a little sick puppy and scaring that guy half to death. Okay, Sunset said. Rarity's love life aside. She said so a strange and quite frankly startling idea came to her, but was clearly impossible. The others continued to talk amongst each other, but Sunset was only dimly aware of it all. Again, it was certainly impossible. Adagio and Sonata were sisters after all, weren't they? Applejack, Pinky, and she all sat back down at the cafe, whilst Fluttershy promised to try to extricate Rarity from Tenderheart's personal bubble. Hey guys? Sunset looked up. To be perfectly honest, he was only half surprised to find Rainbow Dash asleep on the table, and even less surprised to find Pinky taking advantage of the opportunity to decorate Rainbow Dash's face with straws and seconds of salt. Well, this is super creative, Applejack asked, routinely ignoring her friend's antics. Could I roll something by you? Not Sonata, I mean. Sure, Applejack said slowly, evidently both intrigued and puzzled by Sunset's indifference. Well, Sunset mumbled, feeling the heat rising in her cheeks. Do you think that maybe Sonata, likes Adagio? It was an incredibly embarrassing thing for Sunset to say, but thankfully she saw that Applejack understood immediately. Her eyebrows shot up, but so far they disappeared at her hairline. You like her? She asked. Sunset sighed, almost imperfectly. It's a thigh, I suppose. Applejack scratched her cheek absently. But I thought the Sirens were all sisters or related or something. But don't they all have different last names? Pinky asked seriously as he put fizzy touches on her glasses perched on Rainbow's nose. I don't think that counts for very much, Applejack pointed out. Most of my family and yours have different last names. You know, we're all related. Yeah. Pinky hummed for a moment. Yeah, that's weird, isn't it? Is there any particular reason that your face is red? Sunset looked up and felt her face. Oh. Applejack sat back, her hair narrowing, her eyes suspiciously. Oh, well, explain it. Explain what? Sunset asked. She didn't like the looks Pinky and Applejack were giving her. Explain why you're interested in not like Adagio. What would? Sunset asked, frowning. Then her hair and her face burned even brighter. Oh, you can't be serious. Well, you guys do love each other together, Pinky chimed in, twirling a plastic fork between her fingers. Yeah, as roommates. Oh God, we're roommates, Sunset protested. You have to get married or something. You're awful eager to help her out all the time, Applejack said with a shrug. She's my friend, Sunset spread her arms out, as though asking nearby people to bear witness to how ridiculous this was. You know what? We're not talking about this. She glared down with both Pinky and Applejack smart to wink at each other. We're not talking about this. I don't like Sonata that way. End of discussion. Now, back to the topic at hand, please. I think the topic at hand was trying to guess who Sonata likes, Pinky said blithely. Holy Celestia, will you drop it? Sonata came back an hour later, rubbing her neck and looking apologetic. Sorry, she said to them all. Sunset was pretty sure she didn't know it, but Sonata's large magenta eyes had a default puppy dog stare quality to them whenever she got overly emotional. Even Rainbow Dash, let's purse, felt the urge to extend her apology irresistible. Sunset thought it was a good thing Sonata was a naturally manipulative person, ready to be real trouble. You had a rough day, Rarity said generously, apparently unconsciously patting her hair back into its flowing curls. Well, you'll leave your hair alone for laying slicks, Applejack snapped, smacking Rarity's hand away. You haven't lived it alone, old dolly. We could go home if you like, Sunset offered. Sonatas' present tightened, seeking no answer. Actually, I was rather hoping to stay and buy some more fabrics, you know. They have such a nice selection here. Rarity smiled. No one was fooled by the hollow attempt at aloofness, nor were aided deceived by the true nature of suggestion. For Pete's sakes, you're scaring the poor fella, Applejack frowned. Rarity glared at her, cheeks puffed out indignantly. I don't know what you're talking about, she hissed in a defiant whisper. Applejack rolled her eyes. Sonata's spirits were dented, but she still managed to smile. I appreciate you all coming out here with me, even if it all turned out to be pointless. I wouldn't say it was pointless. I got to be a boots in my relatives I don't usually see outside the reunion. And I got to be the celebrity, Rarity squeaked. I hate to drop the bag of expired candy apples on this tender moment, Pinky said, examining a sign next to the bus stop. But I think we might just have the teeniest, itty-bitty little problem here. All you say is, the last bus left about 2 hours ago, Pinky said matter-of-factly. They all stared at her, utterly silent except for the wind. They all looked around in the dark of the twilight. It'd be a full dark in a matter of minutes. They couldn't walk back. And then there was that one guy who's just sitting around moping about his girlfriend that left him when he was young, just continuing on and on and on, and oh my god, 5 meters per second sucks. She's right, said, her eyes widening. That's the last one left at 5 o'clock. Well, that's awkward. Adazio exited the bathroom, a towel wrapped around her head. Not much it would be a bath at the end of the day, in her opinion. Newly clothed in jeans and a shirt, she hurried downstairs as she heard apple strudel call her for dinner. As she turned the corner, she heard a knock on the front door. That was odd. No one usually called at this hour. Opening the door, her eyesight felt as she saw 7 figures crowding the door. The lady turned forward to rummage her head. Ha! You don't mind if I talk to apple strudel for a sec?